So this is the Nmap scan that I will be using for the rest of the boxes in HackTheBox. -- min rate 2000 will give 2000 requests per second to the target IP. Okay, so this is gonna speed up the scanning, but this is gonna speed up the pen testing. I don't have to wait for the scan to complete. Okay, so once I hit enter, I can see that one of the port is already open, right? So I can start digging right here. We know that it is HTTP, so we'll directly go to the web browser and start playing with it. Hey amazing hackers, I'm TORHAT from HM Cyber Academy. Today we'll be looking at responder box from HackTheBox. So this is a Windows machine. They want us to use WinRM, responder and other things, but we will bypass all that and we'll just try to solve it as simple as possible. Okay, so in this machine we're going to try to do some standard procedures which can be repeated, so we're going to automate that so that we don't have to remember. Okay, so I have turned on the VPN and I've created this directory, created nodes, created this particular directory called tools, in which I am currently storing word list, and in this word list has only rockq.txt. Okay, if there are any other word list that needs to be downloaded, I will download and store it over here. Okay, so currently you don't need all that. So let's jump right into the lab. Okay, I've spawned this machine and this is the IP address. Let's store this here. IP equals to this, and go to the terminal and also open sudo nano. If you're using Kali Linux, then you should be having Z shell RC right here. Okay, so if you hit enter, you will have this RC file. Okay, so here I'm going to store my IP equals to something and the target IP equals to this one. Okay, so let's find out my own IP address by using ifconfig ton 0, and this is my IP address. Okay, so control C, control V and exit. So what this is going to do is it's going to remember my IP address for new sessions. Okay, so if you use export command, it will only remember for that particular session. Okay, so after this I just have to restart this terminal and everything's good. Okay, and now if I type echo $IP, so IP of the target will be shown. Okay, so I don't want to use small IP. Okay, I'm going to use capital IP because small IP is a command. Okay, and if you type echo $myIP, it's going to show my IP. Similarly, I'm going to also keep domain equals to something. Okay, subdomain equals to something. Okay, currently I'm just going to keep them random characters, but if I get any subdomains and domains, I'm going to use that in a way that you will understand why. Okay, so saving it. So let's jump into the lab. Let's use Nmap, and for Nmap I'm gonna again use some standard procedure. So Nmap -sc for default scripts, -sv for service version, -p- for 65,536 ports, and only run the scripts on open ports. If ping scan doesn't work, you just have to do -PN, which will initiate a no ping scan, -VV, which will give verbosity, and --min rate 2000. Okay, so this is the Nmap scan that I will be using for the rest of the boxes in HackTheBox. Okay, so this is a standard procedure that I'll be using. This --min rate 2000 will give 2000 requests per second to the target IP. Okay, so this is gonna speed up the scanning, but this is gonna speed up the pen testing because I don't have to wait for the scan to complete. Okay, so once I hit enter, I can see that one of the port is already open, right? So I can start digging right here. So I'll just copy this, and port 80, we know that it is HTTP, so we'll directly go to the web browser and start playing with it. Okay, so it just redirected to unica.htb. Okay, so we'll just copy this and save it in the domains. Okay, domain equals to this. So how do I store this in etc host file? So here also I'm going to use some standard procedure. Okay, so I'm going to create a new terminal and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to say sudo nano z shell rc. Okay, here we have said that this is the domain, so we're going to remove this and going to say unica.htb. Okay, and then I'm going to exit by saving this, and I'm going to just restart this terminal, and I'm going to navigate to the directory, and if I just type echo $domain, I can see that it is unica.htb. Okay, so with that in mind, I want to store this unica.htb in etc host file. Okay, so how I'm going to do is I'm going to use printf, and I'm going to say \n, which means new line, and %s will take the IP address, and \t will give a tab character, and %s is going to take the domain, and then sudo t will just copy this content into this and then also show us the output. So we're just going to hit enter, and it's going to ask for the password, and as you can see, we have created a new entry. Okay, so to see that, you can also check for sudo nano /etc/host. Okay, so if you just scroll down, you can see that this entry exists. So let's exit out of here and just reload this, and now we are able to successfully navigate to this website. Before we do anything, let's capture the nmap scan results. Port this. Okay, Control C and nmap scan results. Highlight this, and it is HTTP, and we're also going to highlight this, and it is also HTTP, and OS version is Windows. Okay, which means if there are some commands or some directory navigations that we need to use, something that relates to Windows. Okay, so let's get back to the website. I'm just gonna hover over things, and I can see that at the bottom right here you can see some links. Okay, you don't have to worry about the hashtags. Hashtag means it's gonna search in the same page. Okay, it's redirecting to /body, so I'm gonna just open that and see that it's not found. Okay, which means this file doesn't exist, or this directory doesn't exist. Okay, this is a hashtag, just ignore it. This is a hashtag, this is a hashtag, this is a hashtag, and this seems like a page redirect to something else. So it's gonna check for some files, and as you can see, it is index.php at the bottom, right? And you can also check that this Unica logo is giving a index.html. So there's a contradiction between, is it index.php or is it index.html, right? So if you just click on this or just open it in new tab, you can see that it's not found, which means it's not index.html. So what is it? It should be index.php. So index.php works, but not index.html. So let's click on one of these links, because these are going to redirect to page parameter over here. If you see something like page equals to something or file equals to something, we can suspect that there is a local file inclusion. Okay, so to test that, just use .. and hit enter. So here it says it's trying to include a file, but the file doesn't exist. Since we want to include some file to test something over here, so we already know that we're looking at a Windows machine. So we want a world readable file to check that this local file inclusion actually exists. Okay, so for that, you just say that world readable file in Windows, and you can see in one of the links, it says see Windows system etc host. Okay, so it is a pretty commonly used to check the read access to file system while pen testing. Okay, so we'll just save it over here, and then we're going to copy this. So you can give as many .. as you can. because the maximum it can go is the partition or the C drive in this case. Okay, so you just have to paste it over here and hit enter, and as you can see something is happening over here, right? So it's not going to read whatever we type, so this is causing some problem. So what you do in this case is go back and paste it the same way that you did before, but you keep http:// because it's trying to read this Google search but not like a website. Okay, so you need to mention the HTTP protocol in this case. So if you just hit enter, you can see that the etc host file is just dumped over here. So at this point, if you know the file of the flag where it exists, then you can directly open the files right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna type users/mic/desktop/flag.txt. Okay, so if I know the file's location, I can just simply dump the file. Here it's not the case, so I don't know that it has my username or any other username. Okay, let's go back to the box. When visiting the web service using the IP address, what is the domain that we are being redirected to? It is unica.htb. Submit. What scripting language is being used on the server to generate web pages? So we know that it's using PHP, so we just write PHP. What is the name of the URL parameter which is used to load different language versions of the web page? So what is the parameter? It is page parameter, right? So this is the parameter that it is using, page. Which of the following values for the page parameter would be the example for local file inclusion vulnerability? This one, or this one? So we know that this is the exact one, right? So we already tested that. So the number of dots can vary, but they have already given some number of // we just go with it and submit. So which of the following values the page parameter would be example for remote file inclusion? So for remote file inclusion, you need to give some remote domain or remote IP address. So in this case, this should be the answer. Pasted, submit. So what does NTLM stand for? So NTLM stand for New Technology LAN Manager. Okay, so which flag do we use in the responder utility to specify the network interface? We have found the flag without using the responder tool or anything. Okay, so if you know the location, you can just go with it, or else you just have to use some tools like responder. So this responder tool is going to capture the NTLM hashes that are transferring through the network. If you don't have responder, you just say responder and hit enter. This should actually install the responder. If you have already installed the responder, you just say responder-interface ton0. Okay, so this ton0 is the tunnel that we are currently using to connect to the remote VPN. Okay, so if you just type ifconfig ton0, you can see that this is the IP address and this is the interface name. Okay, so we are giving the same interface name so that we can try to be inside the network where the target machine is. Okay, so responder-i ton0, and it must be run as root. So we'll just close the other one. We'll just say sudo responder-i ton0, and you can see we got a responder IP address. So this is the IP address that's important. Okay, so we're gonna just store it right here, responder IP. In this case, if it has a remote file inclusion vulnerability, so we're just gonna say // and IP address and some random character. Okay, so this particular payload will be processed by the web page and it tries to connect to this IP address, which is our IP address actually, which is this. Okay, when it tries to reach to us, we're gonna capture the NTLM hash. Okay, so let's hit enter, and as you can see, we got administrator hash. Okay, so we're just gonna right click, copy, and we don't need this anymore, so we'll just close this and say sudo nano file.txt and paste it over here, save it, And to crack this NTLM hash, we will use John in this case. Okay, so we're gonna say sudo John and dash dash word list equals to, we know the word list to crack some passwords, right? So password cracking word list is rocky.txt. So we're gonna just copy this and paste it over here and say rocky.txt. Okay, so the password list is set, and now you have to mention this hash file. Okay, so file.txt. So we'll just let it run, and as you can see, it just instantly dumps the password, which is badminton. Okay, so we're gonna copy this and say, so this is the username and password. So we're gonna use this username and password to connect to the remote server. Okay, so for that we will use evilwin rm. So it's currently not installed. If it is not installed, what you do, you just hit enter and press Y so that it will automatically install. Sudo evilwin rm and say username administrator and password badminton, and say IP address as $IP. So I don't have to remember the IP address, right? So if you hit enter, and any moment now, and here we go. So we got a shell, right? So let's go back, and the flag that we used in responder is -I for the interface, right? So -I, submit. There are several tools that take the net NTLM version 2 challenge or response and try millions of passwords to see if any one of them generate the same response. One such tool is often referred to as John, but the full name is what? So what is the name of the full name? So let's see that. Let's use a new terminal and say John --help. So it just dumps out that this is the name, John the Ripper. Control C, Control V, submit. What is the password for the administrator user? It's badminton. Submit. We'll use a Windows service that is running on the box to remotely access the responder machine using the password we recovered. What TCP port does it listen on? So if a service is running in the box, we should be getting that in nmap scan, right? So if you just go to the nmap scan results, 5895 is the only one we can see right over here, and it also has HTTP and it has SSDP and UPnP as well. So UPnP is basically point-to-point connection. Okay, so this has to be the one. So we'll just say 5895 and submit, and we're done. So what is the root flag? cd /dir. Okay, there's desktop, but desktop would not have anything. So dir desktop, it should return nothing. Okay, so if you just say cd /dir, you can see that there is a mic username. So just go into that, cd mic dir, cd desktop dir, and you can see that there's a flag.txt file. Okay, so you can say type flag.txt, and we're good to go. Control C, hack the box, paste it, and submit. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.